Greetings, this is the Insomniac GM, and today I just want to do a little experiment. Now, there's a YouTuber by the name of T the Writer, and some years back he ended up releasing a video. I don't know if he still has it up, I know he deleted a bunch, but he mentioned that somebody did an experiment where they took each edition of Dungeons and Dragons and just saw how many goblins it would take to kill a fighter. Well, I was curious about it and I've never been able to find it. And, I decided if I can't find it, I can do the experiment myself. And I figured while I do it, I will show you guys. So I already pre calculated this all, but let me give you guys the rules. So for this, it's a level 3 fighter. Now, we're going to say that their constitution is 18 for all of the editions. None of them will use any feats that bump up their HP. Now, we're just going to assume every hit from a goblin hits the fighter. The fighter is not fighting back, and the goblins are not getting critical hits at all. Now, another thing I do want to state is I don't own first edition or second edition. What I did decide, because I don't have the physical copy of it, I'm just using the digital copy of Old School Essentials I have, which I kickstarted the new one, so I will eventually get a physical copy. But so I'm going to use Old School Essentials in place of second edition. So let's begin. So now, one thing I should state, I'm gonna have what edition it is, what the character's HP is, how many goblins they fight. I also wrote down what their average damage is and the number of attacks and how many rounds it would take to kill that player. So the first one I went in reverse order. I went with 5th edition. So for 5th edition, our level 3 fighter has 33 HP. So at level 1, the fighter gets the max 10 and gets the constitution of 4. And we went with a average of 5.5 for level 2 and level 3. I should state, anytime there is a fraction, I am just rounding up to the nearest number. That does affect the damage, but it affects all of them. So yeah, the fighter would have 33 hit points. Now, it would, for calculating challenge rating, I should state real quick too, when I put down how many goblins, that is the max amount that the game recommends. So for this would be a deadly encounter for the fighter. So you should be sending at max 6 goblins if you follow the CR. We know the CR system doesn't really work in a lot of these games. Now, a goblin does an average of 5 damage. So I calculated this and I found out it would take the goblins 7 attacks to bring the fighter down to 0 HP. And then with death saves and that, it would be 9. So that's a total of 2 rounds. Technically, a round and a half. I should have changed that. So now we'll go to the next one, and honestly, I will say I am surprised about the results with 4th edition. So for 4th edition, we have 31 HP. Now, one thing you may not know with 4th edition, if you've never played it, is you have, at level 1, you get the max amount, which I believe it was like 15 plus your constitution, and then every time you level up, you don't add the con, you add a static number, you don't roll dice. So we got 31 HP. Now, this time we would get 8 goblins. Now, one thing I should mention with 4th edition is these goblins only have 1 HP. That's why it's a much higher number 2. Now, these goblins are going to do, and they do static numbers in this game. They don't actually roll damage. So they're going to do 4 damage to the player for each attack. So this would take a total of 8 attacks to bring the character down to 0. So with that being said, that would be the entire round. However, it would take a few more attacks to bring the player down to death, which I shouldn't have written down 2 rounds. That would technically it would be a second round, but it would be like 1/4 of the round in. So I honestly thought 4th edition, with how powerful the characters are, I know 5th edition's pretty powerful, but I know 4th edition's like really, really powerful. Like you're going up against, with 4th edition, that would be like 8 goblins for each player. I thought it would be a lot higher than 5th, but I'm I'm impressed to find that out. So now our next one. I wrote down 3rd edition. I don't have actual 3rd edition. I have 3.5. I don't think that's going to affect anything. If it does, I'm sorry. So with 3rd edition, our fighter would have 29 HP. And the book, originally I was going to write 2 parts for 3rd edition because you have your CR of how many you should send after the players, and then the book also, what I love with 3.5 is it tells you how many goblins or whatever are normally in a group. So the max for that was 9, and I was going to write down what the max for what it says lore wise and the max for what challenge rating states, and I realized they both matched up, so that's fine. So it's 9. So you can send 9 goblins after this 3rd edition player, and the goblins are going to do an average of 4 damage per attack. So that's going to be 8 attacks, and that's going to be 13 to kill the player. Now, the reason why is in 3rd edition, when you are downed, you die when you reach your negative of your constitution score. Unlike 5th and 4th edition, they have death saves. So they're going to last a lot longer from being just beat to death while they're down. So that should take 1 round to get them down to 0, 2 rounds to straight up kill them. Now we'll go to OSE, which once again, that's to represent the older school games. I don't know a whole lot with 2nd edition, so if I'm wrong on that, I'm sorry. 1st edition, I know it's a clone. So with OSE, we're going to end up getting a fighter with 23 HP. Now, it's much lower because for Constitution, instead of a +4 for each level, it's a +3. So that brings our HP down a lot more. And the hit die is also shrunken. Instead of it being a D10, it's a D8. I should mention 3rd and OSE, I got to roll. Well, I didn't actually roll. I took the average for 1st level because it doesn't max out. Now, the crazy part is, although I don't have a 2nd edition, I have a 2nd edition monster manual. It states that the max amount of goblins you would find in the wild is 24. So 24 goblins for level 3 fighter. And each goblin would do an average of 4 damage. So the goblins would do an average of 6 attacks to kill this OSE character. That is 1/4 of a round. That's pretty horrific. With with older editions, I know when you drop to 0, I know some of them don't have that rule, but when you drop to 0, you're dead. Or they have rules that once the combat's over, if your teammates aren't able to help you, like they flee, then you're dead. However, most of the time I see the rule is you drop to 0, you're dead. So that's what I went off with this. I don't know if that's the case with OSC, but now, so 5th edition, it's actually really impressive to me. I know it's a lot of people should know this, but I didn't. That the characters have more health for each edition. So that jump is crazy to me. Meanwhile, the number of enemies you can send after a player like decreases for each edition too. So, which I am impressed that in 5th edition the goblins are doing a little more damage, just 1 point more. But just thinking about this as like being this fighter in each one of these editions, being in 5th edition, you're hired and you walk in the woods and there's 6 goblins who jump you, compared to OSE being jumped by 24. I visually just keep seeing how scary that would be. Just seeing them jumping out of the bushes, grabbing your arm and legs, yanking you about, as others are stabbing you and that. You're trying to draw your sword and just can't get to that point. This is all just. But, yeah, other than that, like, it's all pretty relatively the way I expected. Um, yeah, but I keep wanting to find the test that somebody's done on this, and I figured I'd do it. And I hope this was just as interesting for you guys as I do. Sorry I don't have the actual 3rd, and sorry I don't have 1st and 2nd, but I figured this would just be a fun little experiment to do, and I figured I'd record it for you guys too. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Maybe when 6th edition comes out, maybe I can write this down and see how that is in comparison. See if it goes up, goes down. But until next time, take care.